Tom. And we are Velocities in Music VIMTV. Guys, today we're going to review the new album from the band called Papercuts. It's called Fading Parade, and I actually love that album title because I think it fits the sound of this album, which is really difficult to describe. I'm going to do my best at it, and I apologize if it's not as clear-cut as some of the other times when we give descriptions of sound. This is a very indie, it almost has a lo-fi vibe, but it's not as like dirty sounding as a lot of indie lo-fi acts. To me, I get a lot of, it's like a mix between like the morose, simple songwriting that Beach House did on Teen Dream and MGMT's Congratulations. And really, if you mix those two sounds together, I feel like that's kind of what this sounds like. But here's the kicker. And Tom and I were talking before we turned the camera on, and the thing you have to understand about this album is that the first thing, you're gonna listen to this, and this might not be the first thing you notice, it depends on how your ear is, but the first thing I noticed was that the production on this is like 80 feet thick. I compared this album to ice fishing. Literally, that was the comparison I made, and here's why. I feel like the production is so thick. Over every song, there's just this layer of reverb that you have to get through if you're going to hear anything that's really going on in the instrumental mix. The mix is just so blended and washed together that it's almost to the point that I feel like it's going to polarize people. And basically, once you get through that, you're going to find little gems. To me, the gems are, there are a lot of really beautiful guitar lines on this album that are hidden. And really vocal harmonies, are just vocal melodies in general, that I feel like are just kind of squashed by this level of production, the production effects that they used on this, on Fading Parade. And while that is going to be kind of polarizing, and it does add to this inaccessibility to it, it's also kind of cool because then it forces you to work at it, and when you work at it, you're going to be rewarded. And I didn't notice this. This took me like three or four listens to really get into and find some of the things that I really liked about this album, because other than that, I wasn't getting it. And that's what I think a lot of people are going to say to other people who don't like this album. They're going to, oh man, you just don't get it. And the reason is because I feel like the production's so thick. So tying this back to ice fishing, is as Tom put, the production is the ice. And you're sitting on top trying to get through the ice down to these gems, or the goal, which is the fish and the other hooks that you hear underneath, which are hard to get to and add to a general level of just, these songs are just kind of hard to remember because everything has to go through this big filter of this thick production of just solid reverb. And I feel like that's kind of a big struggle with this. But Tom, before I continue with the rest of my speech on Papercuts Fading Parade, what were your thoughts?
I completely agree with you about the production. Yeah. And it is going to have that polarizing effect where some people are going to love it just for that novelty sound, that kind of Deerhunter-esque sound. That a lot of people are just inherently into, and then a lot of people are just inherently like, I can't hear it, it's not poppy enough, go away. And you know, for me it's somewhere in between that. I think it's a little bit too much to the extreme, but I still do kind of like that sound. Now, past that though, getting to the songwriting, I just think the songwriting is hit or miss at the core. I think some of these tracks are really good, and some of them are very forgettable. So, while I enjoyed this album, overall, I liked listening to it. It's fun to listen to, a lot of great guitar lines, as Jake said. It's just not amazing.
Right. Yeah, and I think that I had a really tough time pointing out, I knew when listening to this album that there were a lot of things that I liked about it, and as we've pointed those out so far, and then there were just a few things that I didn't like. Like I said, I got into the whole production thing. Like, it was a rewarding experience to me because it just added this novelty, that I like that novel sound. It has this charm to it that I find as an album is fun to listen to. But I agree with Tom, some of these tracks are inaccessible. I feel like they're not that memorable. And what it comes down to is that there's a few factors here that just that are all just minor criticisms that their cumulative effect actually does take this album down a notch from being amazing. I feel like the first thing is the albumization, which is a made-up word we have here at VIMTV. It's how the songs work together, and the songs don't. I mean, they're all themed similarly, but they're really individual tracks. They all stand well and operate on their own, and they really don't connect or reference each other or even add to each other as in other albums, good flowing albums do. I feel like you could take any one of these songs and get the same result, get the same opinions about just one of the songs as you would another song without having the pair together. That's just a personal opinion, and one small minor complaint added to the production polarizing effect, added to accessibility. I don't feel like there's any really strong hooks. Again, the rememberability thing, and then scope. I don't feel like this album really is attempting to do anything more than what it is. I think that the huge reverb is the biggest strategy that this album is employing, or that Papercuts was employing when writing this, and that was it. I don't really think that there's another level to attach to it. It is a good quality album. I feel like the mood, I actually liked some of the songwriting, but I do agree with Tom, sometimes it's better than others, and then that charm is enough for me to give this in the mid to upper 70s, so I'm going to go 77.
I'm going to go even 70.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of gives a good representation of where it's at, just because this will be polarizing to some people. I have a feeling some people are going to be even higher than us and even lower than us, and we're going to be right in between. I wouldn't be surprised. So where are you? Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. I want to know where you guys think about Fading Parade, if you thought that this was stronger than what we're leading on, or if you didn't get into it, and why. So please leave us a comment. We'd love to get a dialogue going about this one, because it was a tough one. This is probably the toughest in the set. But that's about it. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities and Music, moving music critique forward.